result.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Just thanks everybody for joining us on this Zoom. 9 months ago, we didn't think we'd be doing this, but here we are. So we've looked at the season in its entirety, and we've got 3 opportunities to get the team out on the park. Obviously, it starts with this autumn series, which is upon us now, and then it's followed by the Six Nations, obviously, and then an opportunity potentially to take a development team or a team with a lot of new players to Argentina later in the season, with the Lions tour in July, June, July. So we've looked at it firstly from the autumn series, with the world rankings being finalised. I think that's allowed us now the opportunity to have a look at a few more players, to look at further developing our game, and also exposing some more rugby players to this level of the game to answer some questions, really, and broaden the depth within the squad. So that's the way we've looked at it. Certainly the Six Nations, which is only about 7 weeks after the completion of this tournament, we'll be into that, and that is a tournament where we know we have to perform and get the best results possible. We'll be looking to try to win that tournament, obviously. So that's a little bit of background to the selection, and obviously 38 players named, 7 uncapped players, one of those being Louis Rees-Zammit, who we selected for the Six Nations. So there's a number of players getting an opportunity to come into camp and show us what they can do at this level. So happy to answer any questions on the squad as you see fit.
Luke, you okay for me to start? Thank you. Can you hear me, Wayne?
Yes, I can, Gareth. Thank you.
Oh, yes, yeah. Thank you, mate. We may start with those 7 uncapped players. Maybe the Bristol duo, Callum Sheedy and Ioan Lloyd. First, maybe Callum Sheedy. He was obviously eligible for other countries. How did you persuade him that Wales was the way forward for him?
Well, it was about a 1-minute phone call in relation to eligibility. He told me that he was born in Cardiff, raised in Cardiff, and he's Welsh through and through, and I could tell by his accent. So, no, he was very, very keen to represent his country, and his country is Wales. So that was a short phone call around eligibility.
And what qualities has him and Ioan Lloyd shown to you that they deserve to be in an international squad for Bristol?
Well, first and foremost, the 10 position, we've had some injuries well documented. Gareth's out for a year. Reece Patchell is just back from a long layoff since the Rugby World Cup. He's played about 13 minutes of rugby. So we're always looking at the depth in that position. Jared got a run in the Six Nations, and we're just wanting to cast the net a little bit. And we think Callum has been playing well for Bristol. And we think that, he has a good all-round game. 23 years of age, I think, he's got a big future in front of him. So, we've spoken to all the 10s. We had a Zoom call with about 55 players, local players, and we talked around the season that's coming. And so those that haven't been named in that position have been spoken to. But certainly Callum, we think, has a big future in the game. We're looking forward to working with him. In relation to young Ioan Lloyd, he's a player that can play 10, 15. He trains a lot at 10, plays 15, kicks goals. Can play on the wing. He's got genuine pace. He's got a good step. He's got a good offloading game. And we think the way we want to play the game going forward, that he offers a lot for a young man. At 19 years of age, he's been in the Wales under-20s, and so he's someone that we've been tracking for some time.
And Johnny Williams, same with, he's come across, he's impressed with the Scarlets since he's been in. Another guy who was obviously eligible for England, but if you look at his name, a similar thing, he's Welsh. What attracted you to get him in the squad so early?
Well, I've spoken to him on and off for a number of years now, when I was at the Scarlets, about potentially coming to Wales. So he's been always looking to come to Wales, and has always wanted to represent Wales. So for us, it was just a matter of having a look at him. He's played in a big match before. We've seen him play for England against Barbarians in a non-test match. And he's a player that I think has an exciting future. He's quite a big guy. He's got good acceleration, good pace, looks to have a good offloading game. And the area that we wanted him to work on, he's put a lot of work into, and that's in the dark arts of the game, and the breakdown area, and also the defensive side of the game.
And just to clarify something there, when you said Gareth had been out for a year, did you mean that he's been out from a year from his injury, or did you mean that he was out for another year? I just wanted to clarify that so I didn't get that wrong.
So Gareth will miss the majority, if not all, of this season. So we're looking at 12 months.
Below?
It is. I mean, he's a quality player, isn't he? He was playing a lot in the number 10 jersey for Warren, leading up to the World Cup, and obviously had that the injury that he sustained in the warm-up game. So devastating for him as a guy wanting to go to a World Cup and also for the team. So to have him out for so long is not great, but he is working very, very hard. And I was just talking to him 5 minutes before coming onto the Zoom call. So he's in the building at the moment, working very, very hard.
Final two from me, very quickly. France is the opening game. Obviously, there's some issue with the clubs over there, Wayne, and also, I mean, obviously, coronavirus cases are up there as well in Paris this week. Are you any danger that game won't go ahead? And have you got a backup plan, or are you quite confident that match will be played?
Well, we're confident the game will go ahead, and we will prepare for that match. But obviously, we always have a plan B internally if the game didn't go ahead. So for us, though, it's France as the first up opposition, and that's who we'll be focusing on the first couple of weeks.
Final one. You are asking a lot of young men. They're going to be in a bubble for a long time over the next couple of months. How are you going to manage that? What are the challenges for you and the players?
It's a challenge for everybody, being adaptable, I guess. So if you look at a World Cup and what could get thrown at you, I think this pandemic, one thing it has done, it's made everybody look outside the square a little bit, and we operate in different ways. And this is going to be a great challenge for not only the players but also the staff, because we're all in the same boat here. So really, there's going to be a lot of discipline required, and the players that we've spoken to so far are really excited and looking forward to getting back into camp, because there was a summer tour to Japan and New Zealand where everybody was obviously really looking forward to that, and that's passed us by. So I think everybody now, even though there's going to be changes in camp and the way we operate, I think they just can't wait to get in to be part of a Welsh setup again.
Thank you, Wayne.
Matt Elscomb's coming in next to you, Wayne.
Hi, Wayne. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Matthew. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just quickly, what's your policy going to be on calling players up and releasing players from the squad, given the coronavirus situation at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think, sitting as a club coach for many years, the policy for us was always, once your players were selected for Wales, our plan A was not to have them. If we got them, it was a bonus. And I think that's probably the rule of thumb, really. Once they're in, there will be opportunities for the odd player to go back and play, depending on the amount of game time they've had. And a lot of our players are coming back from a long time out of the game, so that will be important. But it'll be on a case-by-case basis. I'm getting around with the 4 regional coaches later this week, so we'll be discussing those sorts of issues with them.
And just on Liam Williams, obviously comes into camp, having not played a lot. When are you expecting him to be available for you?
Yeah, at this stage, he's working really, really hard on his recovery. He's going well, and he is due to be back playing the weekend of the French game, so he'll play some form of rugby on that weekend.
And have you spoken to Will Griff-John? Obviously was named to play against Scotland many months ago. Now when the game will take place, he won't be in the squad. That's obviously going to be a disappointment for him. What was the thinking around tight head?
Yeah, so everybody that was in the squad in the Six Nations that has missed out, that was selected in that squad originally, has been spoken to, and some unpleasant phone calls. Really, it's not the nicest part of the job, but certainly that was done yesterday and as late as this morning, so that they got the news from me as opposed to hearing it via the media. So. Yeah, he was spoken to. He's got parts of his game he needs to work on. Bringing him into the camp, we learned a lot about Will, and he learned a lot about the preparation needed and the shape you need to be in to play at this level of the game. So he's worked really, really hard. He's lost some weight. He's in much better shape. And we've talked to him about playing week in and week out and showing some consistency in his game across the board. So he's had a clear message. And also he was, these 55 players we talk about with the Zoom call have all been spoken to around what we want to get out of this campaign, obviously the Six Nations. And if you're not involved in this campaign, obviously we'll be looking at the performances of the players for their clubs and making sure that we pick the squad which we think is the best available at the time to win the Six Nations. So if you're not in this squad, it's work hard, and we're monitoring those players, and they'll be looked at and be considered as well.
And I guess in a similar theme, players like Adam Beard and Elliot Dee over the last 2 years have really symbolised, I guess, the future of the national side in Wales. And for them not to be involved here might have come as a bit of a shock to some. Can you just explain the thinking around those two?
Yeah, Elliot has only played a couple of games of rugby since pre the Six Nations. He didn't partake in the Six Nations due to injury. So it was an opportunity for us to have a look at the other hookers. That's one of the positions we want to have a look at. Sam Perry. He's a big man, around 110 kilos. He's got a good carrying game, and he's a very, very physical player. So a slightly different player from Elliot. We know what Elliot can do, and he's been spoken to, and he knows he needs to run a games now at club level, and just to get some get his the minutes back up, really, if you like, and get his form to where it needs to be, and he'll certainly be in consideration for the Six Nations.
All right, that's all from me. Thanks, Wayne.
No problem.
James Cole from Sky Sports coming in now.
Hi, Wayne, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, how are you, James? All right?
Hi, I'm good. Just a couple from me. First of all, Williams and Sheedy, two players who've represented England, a bit like we saw with Tompkins earlier in the year. Are you surprised Eddie Jones hasn't snapped these guys up, and are you taking advantage?
Certainly not taking advantage, just probably just casting the net and looking at who's available and their form, really, and what they offer in the position that they play in. Leading into the sort of the way we want to play the game, so the skill sets that they bring and whether or not we think that will work in our environment. And we've selected some players that we think have a future in the game, and with a view of 2023. And I think now's the time, if we're going to trial, it's this season, and it's probably in this competition in Argentina later in the year. So the Six Nations is probably not the time to be trialing people and bringing them into the environment. I think now's a very, very good opportunity for us to look at building the depth we think we're going to need for the World Cup.
And can I ask you about the bio bubble? We've seen this outbreak at Sale. How concerned have you been about that? And is there a huge responsibility now on the players as we head into the autumn to behave, well, responsibly?
Yeah, look, there's a huge responsibility on everybody in the community, isn't there? Not just rugby, because our environment, we think, will be very, very tight, and will certainly comply with all the COVID, all the areas that we have to comply with. We will be doing that. It'll be one of the best places to be, I can assure you of that. So really, it's the disciplines that we as the leaders in the group have to maintain and make sure that the education is in place, and that's has been in place and will continue to be in place. And there are Zoom calls before the team comes into camp, and then there will be obviously COVID instructions throughout our time together. So look, we will be very, very diligent in terms of the way we operate and making sure that we keep this thing at bay, and we're able to, fulfill our role within the tournament. That is to front up and play our fixtures.
Will it be a case of if any player goes against those protocols, will there be harsh repercussions?
I think, there's examples of a couple of footballers, look, if that sort of thing happened in our environment, they'll be released from the squad. It's as simple as that. There's too much at stake, too much riding on this for us to be ill-disciplined, and certainly we won't tolerate one or two individuals or any individuals putting the team at risk or the competition at risk.
Thank you.
No problem.
Owen Jones is coming in next.
Can you hear me now?
Owen, I've got you. Thank you.
Good stuff. Just wanted to ask about Ashton Hewitt and Steph Evans. Both have been in try-scoring form. What is it that, have you spoken to those guys? And I guess what is it that maybe Jonah Holmes, Johan Load have got over them that made them, be just outside the squad?
Yeah, Johan can play fullback 10. He's a goal kicker and plays on the wing, so I think he's in a different category altogether. I think the biggest one is probably, your question around Jonah and the other two. Try scoring, I don't think the Scarlets have scored a try in the last two games, but in big matches. But certainly Steph, we know him very, very well. I spoke to Steph down at training a couple of weeks back. He knows nothing has changed. There's areas of his game which he's working on, and he's made solid improvements. So he'll play a number of club games now and get to show the consistency that we're after. Ashton also came into the squad through injury in the Six Nations. He's a player that also has work-ons in his game, which he'll be doing at club level. So, there'll be arguments either way, but for us, Jonah can play fullback, can play wing, and has done so for Wales. So I think it just brings a little bit more to the table for us at the moment. But those other two, they've got like other players that have been close to selection. They need to now be consistent in what they do week in and week out for their clubs in the areas that we need them to.
Thank you.
Guys,